Boss has no training for my position. Unhelpful coworker complains about me to the boss. Boss pushes me to socialize and invades me. Oop, 28F, has been at her new job for less than a month. Very stressful when getting the hang of things, but fortunately, 2 people from the department has been very helpful to Oop. It would be at least 6 months before Oop gets used to the routines. The third coworker would help with the bulk of Oop's responsibilities for a few months, so Oop doesn't get overwhelmed. The third coworker, Amy, editor's note, changed letters to names for readability based on Oop's newer updates, isn't very helpful. From day one, Amy asked vague questions and expected Oop to be perfect on knowing what she was talking about. Complained to their boss about Oop not doing some tasks. Boss doesn't care. Left a bad taste for Oop after hearing Amy's complaining. Oop tries to do a report, Amy sees her struggles with it. Turned out Amy wasn't ready to help Oop see how reports were done. Amy wasted Oop's time by complaining about emails and making Oop feeling guilty for nothing. The report? Amy couldn't do it because she claimed the database wasn't working and it was needed. Oop tells her she will figure things out with the database. Oop asked if she was TA because Amy had been doing lots of Oop's tasks on top of her own. At her job for a month now, Oop still has no training for her position. Previous employee who had her position was fired. No one else in the department of 4 people, including Oop, knew how to do Oop's responsibilities. Company asked the retiree who held the same position to show Oop the ropes. Received 2 days worth of training because the retiree doesn't remember anything and stopped after a few weeks because she cared more about her retirement. Boss is very understanding for Oop being overwhelming. Expects it to be at least 6 months before Oop gets the handle of things. Still no training done. When asking Amy a work question, she gets mad at Oop every time, claims she told Oop what to do when she didn't. Expected Oop to know everything. After a mistake, Amy goes straight to boss to complain about Oop. Boss gets fed up with Amy, shuts her down because Oop is new. Oop communicates with Amy via emails regarding a report needing to be submitted. Amy sees Oop's responding email, stumping into her office, demanded Oop to fix her report. After consulting with boss and IT guy, she refused to admit she was wrong, not Oop. It has been few hours since the report incident. Amy refused to talk to Oop and things are stressful at the office. Boss has said nothing about the whole situation. Oop asked if it was time for her to look for another job or not. 4 months into this job now for Oop. She likes the work, but very quiet and reserved. Boss has an issue with that, tells Oop she should put herself out there more and socialize with other employees at the department. Said he is willing to be Oop's best friend if she lets him lead the icebreakers and conversations. When lunch happens, Oop is invited, but she doesn't accept. Prefers to have lunch by herself. Had lunch once with her boss and coworker, things get uncomfortable when discussing about things such as politics for an example. After starting this job, Oop realized she wasn't going to like it. But tries her best to stick it out as long as she could. Kevin is the "we're family here" boss. Oop is introverted herself and it has been a recurring point between them. He tells Oop to get out of her shell more and to tell him everything. Gets mad at Oop because she won't get up from her desk to go to his office to talk when both of them are CC'd on emails. She has tried to discuss work-related tasks with Kevin, but still not enough for him. Oop's neighbor, Dan, steps into the picture. Dan is Oop's older brother's best friend. Oop's department starts working with Dan. He tells Kevin he knows Oop. Kevin thinks Dan is Oop's boyfriend when he is not. Tries to make the chats personally about Oop and Dan, but Oop shuts Kevin down. She notes Dan is like a big brother to her, she has no interest for him. Oop reaches her 90-day review for the department. Kevin repeatedly tells her to socialize more and should have told him about her older brother and Dan. She doesn't think it was her job to share her personal information. Received 1s and 2s out of a scale of 4 since Oop learned her position quickly without any trainings. Is now looking for a new job. New update. Said she's at her wit's end with her current job with Kevin. She has been looking for new jobs since October. Doesn't have a new job lined up yet, but for various reasons, Oop is working on leaving her job of 1 year. The main reason? She cannot stand her boss. Confirmed he is the worst boss because of his comments made regarding various topics. Calls himself alpha male to people he meets, complains to Oop and asks personal questions she doesn't want to answer to. Gave Oop the worst employees review due to the reasons mentioned. Kevin tells the rest of the coworkers the shit about Oop. They don't like Kevin either, but because Kevin is the boss, they agree with him on his opinions about Oop. Oop, 28F, is still doing job searching. Getting ready to leave the job because of the toxic and narcissistic boss, Kevin, 40SM. Overheard him bad-mouthing other employees when they are not around. Does the same thing to Oop. Gets mad because he thinks she doesn't know how to do her job and no one else helped her. Things Kevin has done to Oop: yell at her in front of the department because she didn't tell him he was CC'd on emails, gave Oop the worst employee review, only gave $200 for her holiday bonus and complained he only got $10,000 for his bonus, hugs Oop when she didn't consent and tells her to smile more, and gets coworkers to spy on Oop. She lost her trust in a fellow coworker who she thought was her friend, only for the coworker to tell everything to Kevin. Yes, Oop has reported it to HR, but they had done nothing. Oop tries to stay positive, but tension was getting too much. Gives one-word answers to Kevin when asked questions. Department is gossiping about Oop, wondering if she leaves and they would have to do her tasks. All sudden, Kevin talks loudly, and he told Oop point blank she wasn't allowed to leave. She had enough of everyone else and decided that leaving was the right choice for herself. Update 1. She confirms her boss is still making comments, hoping she won't leave if she got another job. Gives her compliments, thinking she will change her mind and stay longer at the department to face critiques from him and other co-workers. Kevin gets upset when Oop doesn't greet him at the office. One day when Oop went home, Kevin felt sorry for himself because he believes she has checked out and he doesn't know what happened. Boss has made a big deal about Oop's birthday. Department has a post of monthly birthday list of employees' birthdays. He was upset there was a mistake with Oop's birthday, and he acts like he was excited to celebrate her when he found the correct date. Gave a blank expression because Oop was done with the shit. She explains things are getting toxic, especially with her boss's behaviors. Kevin likes to order people around and telling them what they are doing wrong. Shouting Oop's name, wanting her to run to him when he needs something. Oop has heard back from a possible job, but had to wait and see if an offer has been made to her. While waiting for calls, Oop starts to clean out the shit at her desk, pack her stuff, deleting all browsing history as her boss was out of office. Oop explains her department is in the contracting/construction fields, so the boss has to leave the office to go out to the field. Oop arranges her responsibilities to make it look like her tasks were done. Oop wanted to ghost her boss, but he got to her first. Boss talked with her, knew she wasn't happy and asked what he could do to get her to stay. Oop denied his offer of a raise and pushing back her start time. Kevin begged Oop to stay until he could find a replacement. She said she will only stay until the end of the day. Boss thought he has done something wrong, but Oop won't tell him to avoid giving him satisfaction he was looking for. When Kevin was out at the field, Oop went straight to HR, telling the rep the main reason why she was leaving, her boss. Oop noted the fact that HR hired a new director and was surprised to see the rep taking Oop's words seriously and asked her to elaborate. Told HR everything, and her boss hasn't been respecting her, gossiping shit about her. HR rep tells Oop she will be speaking with CEO. Word goes around the company. Coworker from a different department came up to talk with Oop. Asked her straight if it was Kevin. Oop told her yes. Coworker expanded he was the reason why she transferred. She used to work for Kevin before Oop joined. She proceeded to tell Oop what happened. And reached her breaking point. When she was on her call with her husband using the office phone, Kevin freaked out about the number on the phone logs. Asked superintendent to check who the number belonged. The husband freaked out and told his wife, coworker. She asked IT guy and confronted the superintendent who told her it was the boss. Kevin denied it. Oop knew she was doing the right thing. Oop gives a TLDR of her post. She quits. Update 2. This only just happened within the last hour. I think I'm still in shock. My heart is racing and my hands are shaking, but my mind feels almost blank? It's a weird feeling. For backstory, I've been at my current job for a little more than a month. Prior to this, I was working at an incredibly toxic workplace. My boss was the reason I quit that job. He was absolutely awful. He would yell at me in front of my coworkers for the dumbest shit. For example, whenever he and I were both included on an email, I had to stop whatever I was doing, go into his office, and let him know he received an email. If I didn't, he would get upset and say that I needed to come out of my shell more. He also gave me the worst employee reviews I've ever gotten because I didn't talk to him about my personal life enough. He was upset with me once because he found out from someone we were working with that I had an older brother, and he would have my other coworkers spy on me by telling him everything I did and said. He would say things to me like, I want to be your best friend. I want you to trust me. And then he would go and tell my coworkers things like, my name, has no idea what she's doing, I'm going to have a talk with her. All of this is just the tip of the iceberg. Back in April, I finally reached my breaking point, and I pretty much quit on the spot. I told the HR specialist everything my boss has ever done and said. Then I blocked him and all my coworkers. Fast forward to now. I moved to a new city just an hour away. I got a new apartment, a new job, a great salary, and a boss who actually respects me. Almost 2 weeks ago, I did see on LinkedIn that my former boss viewed my profile, and yes, I know it was stupid of me to have updated my profile so soon, but all I did was block him and forget about it. Today, I got a call from our receptionist saying that I had a visitor. When I asked her who, she said Kevin, fake name of my former boss. I went completely cold. I asked her, Kevin, boss's last name? I could hear her ask him for his last name, and she said yes. I told her that there was no way I'd be seeing him or speaking to him, and that he needed to leave right now. I told her that if he refused to call security and escort him out. I could tell that freaked her out, so I tried to explain the situation, though I don't even remember what I said. It felt like I could hear nothing but my own heartbeat. A minute later, she messaged me that he was gone, and that she didn't need to get security involved. But I don't know. Like I said, my hands are shaking. My boss is on vacation this week, so I messaged her assistant to call me ASAP. But I don't even know what to tell her. What the hell do I do? Update 3. After my former boss, Kevin, left my workplace, I immediately sent a message to my boss's assistant, Jessica, asking her to call me ASAP. She called me via Teams a few minutes later, and I laid everything out for her, what had just happened, who Kevin was, and how he'd made my previous workplace miserable. The more I spoke, the more I spiraled. It felt like the words I was saying were becoming faster and louder, and at one point, Jessica had to stop me so I could take some deep breaths. I've never had a panic attack before, but I'm fairly certain that's exactly what I was experiencing. I remember asking Jessica repeatedly, what if he kills me? Looking back now, I'm a bit embarrassed that I got so out of control, but at the time, I really thought I was going to die the minute I left the office. Jessica was able to calm me down somewhat, and while we were still on the Teams meeting, she called our boss, Nicole. I didn't want her to, but Jessica was adamant that Nicole needed to know about this. Nicole was supposed to have been on her first day of vacation, but her plane hadn't departed yet and she was able to answer the call from the airport. Jessica mostly filled her in on what was going on. The more she spoke, the guiltier I felt. I felt like I was already causing major issues for a company I'd only been with for a month, and Nicole knew nothing about any of this. During my interview with her, when she asked me why I was leaving my current job, all I said was that I was looking to move to the city. But Nicole is nothing like Kevin. She immediately took this 100% seriously. She had Jessica contact security to let them know what's going on and to make sure they have footage of Kevin entering the premises. Then she told me that I needed to call the non-emergency police line and file a report, which I did from my phone while I was still on Teams with her on my desktop. The woman I spoke to didn't seem to take what I was saying too seriously, but she told me to call them back if anything else happened. My boss eventually had to hop off the Teams call to catch her flight, but before she did, she told me to go home, to text both her and Jessica as soon as I got home, and that I was going to WFH for the rest of the week. I was terrified of leaving the office. My commute is only a 15-minute walk, but I was still scared that Kevin would be outside waiting for me. By his own account, he's been arrested multiple times in the past for getting into fights with people. Luckily, Jessica had already contacted one of our security guys to escort me home. Even so, I could feel my heart racing the entire time, and I was breathing like I was running a marathon. Thankfully, I was escorted home without incident. Since then, I've been WFH. Even though she's on vacation, my boss has been texting me every day to make sure I'm still alive. She told me she's gone through something similar in the past, so she knows how it feels. She's a complete 180 from Kevin and I'm so fortunate to have her as a boss. I also told my parents what had happened, and my dad drove up here that same night to stay with me. He's still here, and I do feel a lot safer now. Today, I called and asked our receptionist what, exactly, my boss said. According to her, he came in and said he was my friend, and that his crews had a project nearby and that he was just in the neighborhood and wanted to stop in and say hi. This is all BS. For background, he works for a construction company that focuses a lot on roadway repaving. The crews never pave in the middle of the afternoon, there's too much traffic for that. Instead, they always pave around 1 in the morning and end around 5 a.m. After she had led me and hung up, I guess Kevin could tell by the expression on her face that I would not be coming out because he asked, I guess she's not coming, huh? After our receptionist confirmed this and told him I was in an important meeting, he said something along the lines of, oh, I forgot she thinks she's a big shot now. Honestly, this annoys me so much. When I was working for him, he would sometimes refer to me as his assistant to others, even though I wasn't his assistant. He would also constantly try to get me to sign up for administrative assistant trainings and webinars to help me out, even though I wasn't an administrative assistant, either. He was always trying to diminish me in every way possible, and I think once he saw on LinkedIn that I'm a director now, he got mad. I don't think he dropped in just to say hi. I think he dropped in to scare me, and I hate to admit that he got exactly what he wanted. Per our receptionist and security, he hasn't been back to my workplace since, but I hate that he went this far. I never really understood why he was, and still is, so obsessed with me, but I have some theories. A lot of people commented that he's sexually or romantically attracted to me. While I'm not going to discount that theory entirely, I personally have never really gotten those vibes from him, despite the fucked up shit he's said and done to me, because he's said and done a lot of fucked up things to other people, too. I think he's just someone who requires constant validation from everyone. It's always been clear that he wants other men to admire and respect him, and I think he just wants women to like him in the romantic sense, even if he doesn't like them in that capacity, and even though he's married with 2 kids. I also think he enjoyed having the power to make a woman in her 20s, namely, me, jump whenever he said, jump. He's also so insecure that he would unironically tell other men that he was an alpha male, and he would always talk about college, how he didn't go, how his high school teachers said he'd never be able to be accepted anywhere, and how it's funny now because people with degrees work for him. So yeah, he's super insecure about having never gone to college. He would also sometimes talk about the woman who held my position before she was fired. Why she was fired was never really made clear to me, but he would say things like, I think she would go into my office when I wasn't here to steal my shit, or, I think she was in love with me or something. I doubt either of these things were true, but who knows? He very obviously took issue with the fact that I'm naturally quiet and introverted by nature. I also think my other 2 coworkers there made things worse. Sometimes, they were just as bad as Kevin. One of them, Amy, was outright nasty to me from the moment I started working there, but the other one, Nick, completely betrayed my trust. Every time I got yelled at in front of everyone by Kevin, Nick would seek me out later that day and tell me things like, "Don't let him get to you. You're doing great." He was the one person I thought I could trust there, and sometimes, we would commiserate over some of Kevin's infuriating antics together. Well, I later found out that Nick was purposefully shit-talking Kevin to me, and as soon as I said anything in agreement, he would run straight to Kevin and tell him, "Guess what, my name just said about you?" There was also a revolving door of superintendents who were also just as toxic, and I can't believe I put up with that shit for more than a year. Anyways, I'm feeling a lot better now, but I know deep in my gut that this will not be the last time I'm going to have to deal with Kevin. Today, my dad and I went to see a local attorney, and we're in the process of putting together evidence of harassment so that I can, hopefully, get a temporary, then final, restraining order. I have a screenshot of the time he viewed my LinkedIn profile. My attorney also said that we can use my diary, which I write in almost daily and contains exact dates and incidents that occurred during my time working for Kevin. My attorney has also requested my former HR department for a copy of my exit interview at my previous job, wherein I stated everything Kevin had ever done and said. So the HR rep there at least is aware of what's going on, though I doubt he's going to be fired. A lot of people told me to go to Kevin's boss. He has a few, they're a family, but I'm not going to go to them simply because I don't think they'd care. They don't really seem to care about who they employ, so long as they get paid. Yes, I'm sure they would care if I threatened to sue, but I'm not going to do that because, well, let's just say that they themselves are known to be pretty sketchy, and in some ways, they're actually scarier than Kevin. I know that sounds stupid and silly, but it's true, and I'm not comfortable getting too much into the details as to why people are kind of afraid of them. I don't want to mess with them or their money, I just want Kevin to leave me TF alone. I also have the footage from our security department of Kevin entering the premises, driving off about 10 minutes after our receptionist told him I was busy. And then of his truck coming back to the parking lot around 4:45 p.m., just 15 minutes before we close at 5, and not leaving until it was almost 6 p.m., well after everyone had already gone home for the day. I'm certain that he either asked someone or looked on Google to see when our office hours were, and when I would be getting out of work, so I'm grateful that my boss sent me home early that day. When I think about what might have happened if she didn't, it's hard to breathe. If I get granted a temporary restraining order, it'll only be a week or so before a hearing is set for a final restraining order.